Hello, how are you?
Hello. Happy Tuesday afternoon. Boy, does this feel like a Monday, though.
Right, I was about when you said Tuesday, I had to stop and think in my head, is he correct? Because I don't look at the day. I don't half the time know. Oh well.
Here we are.
So, I know, right? Like, man, it's been a weird day. I did not sleep worth a shit last night. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I was in a tremendous amount of pain. It kept waking me up. So I had to get up out of bed and do my stretches to get this pinched nerve to relax. And I finally got a little bit of sleep, but today I there's been like a local missing child, and so I was trying to help her family get the word out about that everywhere we could. And then outside earlier, I'm sitting outside drinking my coffee, just chilling, and all of a sudden, just boom out of nowhere, around here because we are on the edge of one of the largest Air Force bases in the world, and we do hear those things from time to time. But I got up and I started looking around for, like, a drone going down somewhere or something, but nothing exciting was happening. So I was like, well, damn. But everybody on Facebook is just like arguing amongst themselves as to what it was. Like, some people were saying, oh, mystery solved. It was SpaceX returning home. We're like, but they plunged down in the ocean. And we don't usually hear it over here on the Gulf Coast when that happens. Even when they land in the Gulf of Mexico, we don't hear it. But apparently there was an explosion nearby, so I don't really know what all that was. But I was like, man, this is a lot going on today. I'm just going to go back in the house and chill.
Yeah, yeah. Leave your drones inside, people.
Right? I mean, as soon as I heard it, I was like, ooh, did we just shoot a drone down? Let me go look. And I got up and walked away from my table because I was under the pole barn. I couldn't really, there was no clouds in the sky a little about an hour ago, and I have this picture of what it looked like, a twister in the sky, the way the cloud was formed. It was so cool. But yeah,
like a wall cloud.
I'll have to send it to you in Discord in a little bit. It's really cool. I've never seen a cloud look not quite like a wall cloud. It's just really weird the way it was shaped. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, so um
We saw that in Independence Day, and we know what happened to those people.
oh yeah, it's been a minute since I've seen that movie. Oh goodness.
They're
Hmm.
up on top of the skyrise, up on top of the big tall building in downtown New York or whatever metropolis it's supposed to be. And they're like, come and visit us, all you aliens. And the aliens come down and they zap them all. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was they had that ride for a while at Universal Studios. We used to go there all the time when my kids were growing up, and hey, what the heck happened? Anyway, yeah, there was some crazy stuff. I don't know what was going on out there with that boom. I guess we'll either figure, if it was an explosion, it'll be up hitting the media here again soon. But
No, it could have been a sonic boom. I mean, those jets take off out of there like a bat out of hell.
yeah, I mean, we've all, there's been times your whole house will rattle, though it's not surprising. But people were saying on Facebook a few minutes ago that probably about 45 minutes from where I'm actually at, there was an explosion, and there were a lot of rescue personnel headed up that way. So I don't really know what was going on. Like, I was just
Oh,
checking on
wow.
that a second. Yeah, before I went live, I was seeing it talked about on Facebook a little bit. So I was like,
Yeah, that's not a sonic boom, no.
yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
what was it, like 4 or 5 years ago that they had that shooter on base, right?
oh yeah, at Pensacola NAS.
Yes.
Hmm. And that guy, man, that they locked our base down for so long, and we have the Naval Aviation Museum out there, and a lot of people go out there quite often. I used to take my kids out there periodically. My son would take my grandson out there, but you couldn't even get to that for probably, I think, 2 years. They had that.
Wow.
Yeah, when it finally opened back up, everybody was like, "Phew, thank goodness." But yeah, that was a scary event. I mean, because you don't like. you would hear about these things all the time, but when they happen close to home, it's different, you know. Um, like my niece attended FSU when the shooter opened fire at the library at FSU. And thank goodness, it was midnight and she was at home and safe, but it was terrifying to know that it could happen so easily. And then we saw what just happened the other day with the other school shootings. So a lot of scary things going on out there in this world, including serial killers everywhere. So, did you get a chance to listen to the press conference earlier today on the Lisk case?
I did not. I did not. I am behind on everything this week. Like I started out the week behind. Like usually when I go into a Monday, I already feel like I'm 2 days behind.
Oh, you did.
But yeah, I took off most of the weekend, and so now I'm like 4 days behind.
I did the same thing this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I kind of did a little bit on Saturday. I was just reviewing some stuff, and then I got, I was like, yeah. And then because I try to give myself a break, because a lot of the stuff we deal with is heavy and just whatever. So, I just kind of took it easy on the weekend, and yeah. But today I knew the press conference was happening, and I have followed the case since the arrest of Rex Heuermann and all the things that came out during that. And there hasn't been a whole lot of movement in the case again until recently. But he was charged with his seventh murder in the death of Valerie Mack. Um, Valerie was found on November 19th of 2000. Her remains were discovered in Monroeville, in May of 2020 through DNA testing. Um, Rex Horman, I don't know if you followed a lot of what he would do to his victims, but he would, and let me get a disclaimer up there now before I start talking so nobody gets content warning people. But he would dismember bodies and things of that nature. So they found her torso out there, and not far from where one of his other victims had been located, but they were like about 50 miles from Gilgo Beach where the other bodies were found. um, and there's still quite a few unidentified persons from the Gilgo Beach area that are still considered Jane Does, and there's an Asian male, there's a toddler, there's still quite a few of them that haven't been identified, and they don't know if he's responsible or not, but chances are he is because they were all found right there near that. Why is my
Oh,
thing not showing up? There it goes.
there you go.
There it is. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Yes, you would,
So
but you would think that the Asian male and the toddler don't fit his like standard victim MO, right?
well, there are reports that the male Asian may have been transgender, and Rex was into some pretty strange stuff. So, yeah, there's been some investigation into that, and there's a Twitter profile that really is up on this case, and he's awesome, and he really advocates for the victims. We're going to go over one of his tweets here in just a minute, but and you guys can go give him a follow if he's Catch Lisk on Twitter, and he has been giving out pretty good information for a very long time, and had actually mapped the locations of where these bodies were turning up actually. So he's always a trustworthy source to go to for information and different things. And that's where I got the charging documents at first thing this morning. I had a feeling he would have them, so I went there, and sure enough, that's where it was. And we're going to go over a little bit of that today, before we wrap things up, to get caught up on the what was going on with Valerie's case. But like I said, yes, she was found in November of 2000, and then she was identified in 2020. And he was named as a suspect, I think, in June, because there were documents. Well, they seized a lot of stuff from his home when they did the search. I don't know if you watched some of the search that was going on when they did his search of his home. Um, they did a pretty intensive search on Rex Heuermann's home and property, and got a lot of information out of there, a lot of evidence out of there, and things of that nature. And there was like, oh gosh, like over 100 terabytes of information downloaded from devices that he had, and he actually had a, what was titled a killing document, um, and a blueprint for murder. Things like this were showing up on his devices, and he was researching the case itself and looking into different things. But they found a document in his belongings, and they found a document near Mill Road. Lo and behold, that's where Valerie was found. And another victim was found very close to where she was found. And like I said, we'll pull up a map and show you, but the rest were found out there on Gilgo Beach. So let me pull up my other screen so we can take a look at um, the actual document that I'm going to be referencing here.
Yeah, I saw bits and pieces of the press conference today, but so this is victim number 7 was from the press conference today.
Yes. He had a court appearance today, and after that appearance, hello, All Eyes, welcome in, hun. So after that appearance, they came out with a press conference and announced that he was charged in Valerie's death as well. Let me get you a little bit of a screen up. I've read some of that documents that were found in his home, parts of them. I'll have to go back and I was trying to find where I had that earlier, and I was like, didn't I have copies of that? But
Well,
anyway,
did they kind of miss some stuff like the first time around, and then they went back and they found more stuff later? Do I remember that right?
you mean in Gilgo Beach?
Yeah, no, at his house.
Oh yeah,
Like,
they went back and searched more. Like
right.
they went into the basement cellar thing. They dug up parts of his yard. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And I know how everybody talks about transferred DNA over there in the Idaho case. You know, that sheep DNA was just transferred. It wasn't left there by the killer. It was accidentally done or whatever. But some of these victims, they found hair strands on them. And those hair strands matched Heuermann's wife and daughter. So believed to be transfer DNA, either from his vehicle, because he would pick them up in his vehicle. And there's a survivor out there who actually went on a date with him. She was a sex worker. All his victims were sex workers. Hey, True Grit, welcome in. No, it's been a while, girl. Um, so one of his victims talked about her date with him. We'll have to put that up in another show, but how creepy he was. But yeah, they found some hairs on some of these bodies, and they do know that mitochondrial DNA has matched it back to his wife and to his daughter. And I think at the time when the hair was discovered on Valerie, his daughter would have been very young. But they did further testing DNA testing done. Well, his defense team is challenging that evidence now. So there will be a hearing, I think, in January, if I'm not mistaken, is when they're going to have the hearing. But it's going to be, where'd it go? It's like a Dauber hearing, but it's called a Fry hearing. And we're going to go over what that means. But that really basically it's challenging the validity of the science behind the DNA testing. His attorneys have come out and said, well, this testing lab they use out on the West Coast isn't accredited in New York, and we don't even believe it's valid. So there will be a hearing coming up, which I guess that's kind of unusual to get that type of hearing. Maybe not, because it is such a newer technology, but they will hear witnesses from both sides come in and testify about the validity of this type of testing and
Well,
proceed from there.
holy cow! What are the similarities with this and the Idaho 4? I mean, isn't that crazy that we're having DNA
Idaho 4, they
For
have single
yeah,
source male DNA. This is hair follicles, just like in Delphi. All those untested hairs from Delphi, they could have done nuclear testing on that to further discover who and what and where that came from. Um,
right. Mm.
but yeah, so this is a tweet from it's at catch underscore lisk on Twitter. It's a very good resource to go to for all things Rex Heuermann, Gilgo Beach. So I'm just going to read you this. This is from this morning ahead of today's press conference. So, Gilgo Beach killings, suspected serial killer Rex Heuermann of Massapequa Park, charged with seventh murder in the death of Valerie Mack, sources say. And now that has been confirmed. I know, girl. I did a little bit of research on it earlier this morning and watched about it. So, Rex Heuermann, the alleged Gilgo Beach serial killer, previously charged in the deaths of 6 women, has been charged with the murder in the 2000 slaying of Valerie Mack. Heuermann, 61, of Massapequa Park, is expected to be arraigned on a superseding indictment, adding a new charge of second-degree murder when he makes his previously scheduled appearance before Suffolk Supreme Court Justice Timothy Mazzei in Riverhead on Tuesday. Mack, a New Jersey woman who for 2 decades was known as Jane Doe Number 6, after her torso was discovered in a wooded lot off Mill Road west of Halsey Manor Road in Manorville in November of 2000, was identified by police through DNA 4 years ago. Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney named Heuermann as a suspect in Mack's killing in June, when prosecutors unveiled a document they discovered on a device as a potential dump site. Heuermann also visited multiple gun clubs in the area near where Mack's remains were discovered. He was apparently an avid hunter. Hunting was like his sport. And he was always out shooting the guns. So I guess there were some ranges around there, and that's where he was known to go. Tierney declined to discuss the possibility of new charges when contacted by a Newsday reporter this week. Heuermann's defense attorney, Michael J. Brown of Central Islip also declined to comment. Mack was 24 when she was last seen by family in October of 2000, the mother of a young boy. Mack's parents previously told Newsday they believed she left for New York from her sister's home in Wildwood, New Jersey. Mack, like each of the 6 other alleged victims, oh, sorry about that, guys. I forgot my phone was on. Mack, like each of the 6 other alleged victims of Heuermann, had been a sex worker, investigators have said. Suffolk police previously said she was arrested 3 times in Philadelphia for prostitution, drugs, and loitering. I hate to even read that because to me it doesn't even matter. I mean,
Right,
they're all victims regardless,
right.
and not all serial killers target sex workers. I just think for him, that's what he was already into, the sex, whatever,
Right.
and they were easy targets.
Like the truck driver that they arrested in North Carolina and extradited to California. That's
Yeah.
going to be an interesting case of similar. Don't forget to check chat.
Okay.
Mother of Dragons has a question for you.
Okay. Let's see. That was a big discussion when it first happened, and her um, out in a deposition from another woman who visited the home of Rex Heuermann with her boyfriend, who were there for a swingers night because Rex Heuermann would go into these bars, in these swinger bars, and he actually left they had a little pinup board in the back, and you could put your information up there, and you could get it off the board and call them up and go, hey, we're going to swing with you. He was doing that. So he literally brought her and her boyfriend, who at the time was a cop, go figure, to the home for the swinger meetup. And apparently his wife changed her mind, didn't want no part of it because one of the girls was a black girl. So we don't know. I've got questions myself, but I'm not trying to accuse nobody. So we'll go down that hole. But I'm right there with you, girl. Um, so anyway, getting back to the article, to his tweet here. Jessica Taylor, whose killing Heuermann was charged with in June. Now, Jessica was found near where Valerie was found. Some of Mack's mutilational remains were found off Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach in 2011. So he literally had her in two different locations, right? Making it harder to place and identify. Each set of Taylor and Mack's remains were found within a mile and a half of each other, and investigators long believed the deaths were related. Ed Mack, the adopted father of Valerie Mack, said in June that he believed prosecutors would likely charge Heuermann in the death before the end of the year. He said at the time that he was pleased with how the case had progressed. It looks like they are really mining the evidence, Mack said in June. The latest indictment is the fourth charging Heuermann in the killings of the women, six of whom are among eight sets of human remains found between December of 2010 and April of 2011 along the same 2.6-mile stretch of north side of Ocean Parkway. Identified skeletal remains, one belonging to an Asian male found in women's clothing, and another of a toddler who investigators believe is the daughter of a woman whose remains were discovered in Hampstead Lake State Park in 1997. Prosecutors have also called Heuermann a suspect in the death of Karen Vergata, whose remains were found further west along Ocean Parkway in 2011. I don't think he's been charged in Karen's death yet, and on Fire Island in 1996. Heuermann, who owned an architectural firm in Manhattan, was first arrested outside of his office on July 13th, 2023. He was arraigned the following morning. One charges of first and second degree murder in the killings of Megan Waterman, Melissa Bartholomew, Amber Lynn Costello, who were each killed within a year of each other between 2009 and 2010. Heuermann went to murder in the death of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, who was killed in 2007. Waterman, Bartholomew, Costello, and Brainerd Barnes, referred to by investigators as the Gilgo Four, were the first sets of remains discovered near Gilgo Beach in 2010. A second superseding indictment in June charged Heuermann with second-degree murder in the killing of Taylor in 2003 and Sandra Costello, whose body was discovered in the Southampton hamlet of North Sea in 1993. Prosecutors have said DNA linked Heuermann to each of the previously charged killings. Witness statements and cell phone data also ties Heuermann to some of his alleged victims, several of whom had ties to the New York City area where he worked. Prosecutors have also said financial records and witness statements show each of the women were killed at times. Heuermann, a married father of two, was alone in his first Gilgo Four that were identified and he was charged with. That during the time of their disappearances, allegedly his wife and children were out of town, like even out of the country, because his wife wasn't from here. And so I don't know if the current charges or any of those they've been able to pinpoint that's actually the case, but they were alleging in the beginning that each time he did this, his wife was out of town. But we'll see how that progresses as the cases unfold. Tyranny has alleged that Heuermann took notes from books about serial killings and that evidence found in his home showed he had an interest in torture. Heuermann, that just brought me back to, I'm sorry, I just got my own self sidetracked. There was a press conference a couple months ago, and Dr. Bacardo was there. Is that the way you say his name? I want to say Bacardi each time, but it's not Bacardi. Very interesting stuff about his daughter. The type of art she did and the things that she was into, and it was really weird. And it felt a little uncomfortable because I don't know if they were trying to connect his daughter to knowing what he was doing, but and I know that people are out there who are into this types of art, so it really didn't mean a lot. But when your father is accused of these horrendous things and you're drawing specific things that mimic what he was doing, what did this child see when she was little? That's the thought we were all going with at the time we saw that press conference. Tyranny has conceded a hearing on scientific standards used in the case is necessary because the nuclear DNA methods used by an outside laboratory to recover data from degraded hair samples has not been presented in a New York court. So I guess this would be the first time this type of evidence is admitted into a court in New York. So I guess that's why they have to have the hearing to decide if it's admissible or not, valid science. Okay, let me pull up. Hello, Kelt. How are you? At times, did y'all lose me for a minute?
Yeah, we lost you for a couple seconds here and there.
Uh-oh. And see, I sometimes when you're talking, I'll lose you for a couple seconds. I'm like, is that me or is that him? I don't ever know. So you guys always let me know. Yeah, sorry about that, girl. It's probably me. Although it is showing I got a weak signal. Let me see something. Let me do something. Hopefully that'll get better. And if you have any problems, just let me know. I'm not going to play that press conference from earlier because it's kind of a little bit lengthy, but we will go over this document in the bail application because it talks more about the what he's charged with here, especially in this new case. Okay. Sorry about that. If I go away, I'll try to repeat something. Just let me know, guys.
You always come back. Every time you go away, you always come back.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably depends on who you are. Um, huh. Some folks might wish I never came back, but hey, I say to myself, so screw them. I don't care.
Always be you. Always be you,
Oh,
sir.
I am. All right.
Yes.
I don't know how to be any other way. Oh, goodness. Now I got to get comfortable and having my coffee too. All right. So this in the beginning of the document, it's going over the other charges that he had. Melissa Bartholomew, July 10th, 2009. This one is for Megan Waterman, June 6, 2010. This one is for Amber Costello, September 2nd, 2010. This one is for Melissa Bartholomew on July 10th. Wow. June, July, he kind of, maybe he liked summer. I don't know. Maybe he didn't do a lot in the winter. Did his wife not travel in the winter? I have to do some research on that now. Um, this one is for Megan Waterman, June 6, 2010. This one is for Amber Costello, September 2010. On January 16th of 2024, Heuermann was charged by the grand jury in a superseding indictment in Suffolk County, which incorporated not only the above counts, but the additional charge of this one is for Maureen Brainerd Barnes, July 9th, 2007. July 9th was my daughter's birthday. On June 6th of 2024, Rex Heuermann was once again charged by the grand jury in a superseding indictment, which incorporated each of the ones above and additionally added Jessica Taylor. It's believed between July 21st through July 26th of 2003. Then you add Sandra Costello, November 19th to the 20th of 1993. Today, defendant Rex Heuermann stands before this court charged by the grand jury in another superseding indictment, which incorporates each and every one of the above counts, as well as the additional charge of Valerie Mack for between September 1 of 2000 to November 19th of 2000. The people filed a written bail application at Rex Heuermann's initial arraignment, which occurred in July of 23, as well as defendants' arraignments on superseding indictments, which occurred in January of 24. Those applications are annexed, and so we're going to go down a little bit and read some more. Okay, set forth below is the people's bail application in support of the new indictment, which will expand on additional evidentiary developments in the investigation, now charging Heuermann with the murder of the additional victim, Valerie Mack. Based on Heuermann's indictment on additional murder charge as it pertains to now a seventh victim. Um, we're going to go here and start here. Let me. Okay. So the 2000 and 2011, or the 2000 and the 2011 discovery of the human remains of Valerie Mack. So she was found. That's just insane, isn't it? That he would do
Oh,
that, and then
it's crazy.
it
It's
is.
uh, and
It's
it's
scary.
disturbing. It's
Yeah,
disturbing. Yeah.
it's very disturbing because this guy went unchecked for years. He was doing this out there, and people have to go back, and then in the beginning it was like, well, how did his wife not know something was up? I think she knew he was weird. Not so sure she wasn't weird a little bit, but do you just um I don't mean this in a bad way, but she's from another country, so are there there's always these things. Did she just not want to know? Did she just look the other way? Or was this is my husband, this is what he does? I mean, there's so many questions, that you could be asking. But I've honestly really thought about it, because you see other cases where these serial killers have families, and they have children and they have wives and they carry on and live normal. How could somebody who's doing all this and me not even get an indication that something was amiss? Like, where you been all the time? What are you doing when I'm not home? Where are you going? All those things. I know that
Well, but
people
she
just,
had to have clues. She had to have clues
yeah,
because he was doing the swinger board thing. Whatever form that was, she
right.
had to have known that he was putting up his, do we whatever form that swinger board was. I mean, she
Mhm.
had to have known about that at a bare minimum, if nothing else.
Well, especially, and I'll have to get that indictment, and we'll on our next show go over that. Of the lady who gave the indictment, or not the indictment, the statement. So when they went back to his home, and she was there, and the lady said that his wife was absolutely aware of what they were doing there and why they were there. So was she just knowledgeable of that, part of their life, but didn't know he was doing other things down in the crazy basement area? I don't know, because he was obviously dismembering his victims somewhere. So he was doing it right there in his home the entire time. And did you never go down there and see what your husband was doing down there? Not Did you not see the abnormal tools and different things, and all the things that were talked about in the blueprint for murder documents that he had? He had some crazy toys down there. Did she just mind her own business and stay upstairs and never go down? Ladies, don't do that. If your husband starts acting weird, or your partner, male and female, all of y'all, you got a weirdo in your house and they're doing some crazy stuff, go investigate. Wait till they go to sleep or something, but go look, take pictures, and get out of there. I don't know. It's hard to believe that you could live for years with somebody and be completely unaware that they were doing something crazy. I mean,
Not just that he was doing something crazy. He was doing something crazy in your house, in the house where you lived. And even if you go and visit family for the
symptoms to
weekend,
other locations.
yeah, but even if you go and visit family and you come back, it's your house.
Right.
Are you just going to close your eyes and be like, I don't know what he does in the basement. That's not that's his area. I don't go there.
Well,
No, no,
yeah,
no, 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 no.
some people will if he's paying the bills and doesn't ask any questions. That's like I can't do that. I'm a questioner. I got questions. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Okay, yeah.
but
If I and I'm not a woman, so I can't tell you what a woman would do. But if I were a woman and my man had a man cave, I'm not just like giving him that man cave like blindly and saying,
right.
go do whatever you want in that man cave. I don't care. I see nothing. I hear nothing. I say nothing. No,
Mhm.
no. I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna be like, hey, how's your man cave looking today?
Right.
Like once a week, once every couple weeks, once a month, even. But I'm not just like blindly accepting that that's his area and I'm not to touch it ever. No.
Yeah, I couldn't. You know, I'm sorry. He has to go to work sometime during the day, and even if I was intimidated when he leaves to go to work, I'm going down there to look. So I'm gonna know. I'm not. I can't, it just that's like red flags were everywhere. They had to have been. You can't be a normal. I mean, he portrayed himself as a normal functioning human being with his little architect firm, and people knew him well in the area. He was a well-known architect, and the things he was able to get done with his company. And I've watched videos of him talking, and presenting his architecture firm, and he appeared to be a normal human being. But when you live with them, that's different. Everybody's going to be different at home than they may be out in public or, at work, even. And when he walks out that door, presents himself to the boy next door to the world. That's just a fact of life. Those are the ones you got to watch because they're the most dangerous, in my opinion. So, on or about November 19th of 2000, three individuals whose identities are known to law enforcement were hunting with a dog in a wooded area of Manorville at approximately 10, here on after known as the Hunters. At approximately 10:50 a.m. while hunting at the above location together, the Hunter's dog alerted the group to a black plastic bag which was wrapped with duct tape. Said bag was located approximately 1 mile west of Halsey Manor Road and north of Mill Road. See embedded map. And here's the map. I actually went and looked at this earlier on Google Maps, and it was about 50 miles from the Gilgo Beach area. I think this one here on, I don't know if you probably can't see, but the on the screen. I can't tell if you guys can see where I'm pointing or not, but the one marked 03422-775, I think that was where Jessica was found. And then over here on the far left, that is where Valerie was discovered. So they were very close to one another. And that's out near the shooting ranges that he would go to. And allegedly, I guess there was hunting grounds out there. Inside said bag, the hunters observed additional black plastic bags and ultimately a set of human. Upon arrival, members of the Suffolk County Police Department observed the remains of a female later identified as Valerie Mack. Notably, the victim was decapitated. Warning, guys. Moreover, both of her hands had been severed from her body above the wrist, and the victim's right leg had also been cut off from her body at mid calf. Now, a lot of they were saying like he would do that like to so they couldn't identify fingerprints, if they to trying to if that they were found, and if they had tattoos and different things of that nature, he would literally try to remove them. I don't really want to get into graphic detail, but yeah. Pink Peony, I hear you, girl. I get that. Reminds me of this damn post I saw on Facebook yesterday. Like this lady went into a Facebook group and anonymously complaining, like, my husband lets me spend and do whatever I want to do, but literally doesn't want nothing to do with me. I was like, where's he at, lady? I'll take him. Um, that was a bad joke, probably, but Okay, so I'm getting back to this now. Um, Mrs. Mack's torso, legs, and arms were also bound with rope. During the initial investigation in Manorville in 2000, Mrs. Mack's head, hands, and right foot were not and their location remained unknown to law enforcement for approximately 11 years. Wow. On April 4th of 2011, as part of the expanded search of the Gilgo Beach area, Valerie Mack's skull, hands, and right foot were discovered along Ocean Parkway just east of Gilgo Beach. Mrs. Mack's remains were discovered less than 1.5 miles east from where Jessica Taylor's skull, hands, and forearm were discovered. Notably, each of the five previously discovered victims' remains on Gilgo, as well as the skull, hands, and right foot of Mrs. Mack, were recovered on the same side of the road and at a similar depth of within 50 feet from the edge of the parkway. So he just took part of her down there where, he had his other victims. And here is a map of Gilgo, of the stretch they called Gilgo Beach there, of where the victims were found. I don't know if you guys can see that really well. Um, but it has little, markers where each one was found and how relative. Look, 1, 2, 3, and 4 were all found relatively close together there, and it was very marshy through there. Like you wouldn't just park and jump out and walk. Like I'm not used to that. I have like the beautiful Gulf, so we can park and just get out and walk to the beach. It wasn't quite like that there. There were some areas you could go into and part that whole stretch was like marshland through there. Um, During the initial investigation, Mrs. Mack's identity remained unknown to law enforcement. The victim had been referred to as Jane Doe number 6. However, utilizing a DNA sample developed from Mrs. Mack's remains on or about May 8th of 2020, local law enforcement working with a genetic genealogist from the Federal Bureau of Investigations as well as Suffolk County Crime Lab and outside laboratories were able to determine the identity of Jane Doe number 6 as Valerie Mack. Information relevant to the disappearance of Valerie. Valerie Mack was born June 2nd, 1976 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Her birth name was Valerie Lynn Fulton. At an early age, Miss Mack was placed in foster care and shuffled between several foster homes until she was ultimately adopted by the Mack family. In 1994, at the age of 17, Ms. Mack gave birth to a son and began living with her son's father in Wildwood, New Jersey. Shortly after, she began frequently traveling to and from Wildwood, New Jersey to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In 1996, Valerie had her first contact with Pennsylvania law enforcement, resulting in the first of several prostitution-related arrests. Mrs. Mack's final arrest came on or about June 25th of 2000. Based on the foregoing and investigation to date between 1996 and 2000, Ms. Mack is believed to have been working as a sex worker primarily in the Philadelphia, PA, and Atlantic City, New Jersey areas. If there wasn't a demand for what they did, they wouldn't be out there doing it. So, no shade on these girls. While she did advertise online, primarily under the alias of Melissa Taylor, Miss Mack was also known to street walk, wander the streets looking for sex work. Shortly after the discovery of her remains in Manorville, Mrs. Mack's body was examined by forensic pathologists in Suffolk County, as well as forensic anthropologists, who were able to determine the victim had been deceased for approximately 2 to 8 weeks. Recently, the Suffolk County Medical Examiner's Office conducted an independent review of these findings and determined that Mrs. Mack's death would have occurred, more specifically, on or about between September 1 of 2000 to November 19th of 2000. At the time of her death, Ms. Mack would have been 24 years old. Right, Peak Pony? There you go. Boom. I swear, if I found something like that, I would probably at some point, dude. I don't know, but you need to pay for what you did. The examination of the remains of Valerie Mack, in addition to the aforementioned decapitation and dismemberment of Mrs. Mack's head and hands, respectively, the medical examiner's office was also able to determine that Mrs. Mack's lower right leg had been amputated at the mid calf. Do you know it takes us? I mean, that it's one thing, murdering your victims is bad enough, but doing all of these other things, and it appeared over time he was enjoying that part of it as well. Like it wasn't just a thing anymore to help get rid of bodies, to make it harder to find them and identify them, but he got a pleasurement out of that part of it too.
It's so sick. It is
Is
so sick to dismember them after you kill them and leave the torso here and the arms here
mhm.
and the skull here. I mean that is a really, really, really sick and depraved individual. And he hasn't been proven
Exactly.
guilty yet beyond a reasonable doubt, but I mean we all have our opinions about that, and if and when he's convicted of this, that is a sick mf'er. That's
It
all I'm
really,
gonna say.
really, you're right. And there's a lot of evidence stacked against him, and not all cases are going to be like Delphi, where we all know innocent to proven guilty. But damn, they got a lot of evidence on this guy, and they know for a fact he had all those burner phones. They got images and video of him going into cell phone stores and purchasing these burner phones, and they got the dates and the time stamps on that and everything. And we also know that he was known to call his victims' families after they were missing and taunt them. That's a sick individual. Like, here I am, catch me if you can. He didn't count on DNA progressing to the point that it has. And now that DNA that helped catch him is being challenged. So that's crazy to me. And then they caught him. Well, they began to get information that led to him, and then they followed him and watched the big guy eat that pizza that day. When he threw that pizza crust out, they collected that pizza crust and got that DNA, and sure enough, it matched the DNA coming off their victims. That's how they
Well,
caught.
that's funny, not funny haha, but funny
Right.
ironic, because we all in our world of the true crime social media sleuth area, we all have our opinions. We have our opinions of Brian Koberger. We have
Mhm.
our opinions of Richard Allen. We have our opinions of Sarah Boone. We have our opinions of Stephen Stearns.
Ugh.
And we have our opinions of this guy right here, Rex Heuermann. And we can honestly, can we not say that we think that Rex Heuermann is as guilty as Stephen Stearns? That's where we're putting him right now. That's where I'm putting him. I mean,
Uh-oh,
I
is it
think I
me?
no, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
I agree.
right, and Sarah Boone was guilty too, but she had some domestic violence things going on there that may have mitigated that. But then you
Yeah.
have Brian. Then you have in the middle, you have Brian Koberger,
Mhm.
and you have people who are equally convinced on both sides. Brian Koberger did it, and Brian Koberger is innocent. You
Yeah.
have Richard Allen. Richard Allen is innocent. Richard Allen did it. So that I mean, it's just so crazy that we go down this walk because we have all of this evidence of where Rex Heuermann went with his prostitutes and with his call girls and the dismemberment, and that's where the police are taking us. But they couldn't take us there with Richard Allen. The
Right.
only thing the only thing they could give us was a an unspent round. The tool marks of an unspent round is literally the only thing that physically connected him to the scene of that crime. And we're already way, 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 way past that in this case.
I agree. And, it's like with Delphi, we were all waiting to show us the evidence, especially, when the arrest finally came of the suspect. We're all like, yay, great, they caught the guy. But then as we all started seeing the lack of evidence, we're like, we had questions, and rightfully so. In the Koberger case, a lot of questions arose out of conspiracy theories, but there's so much the gag order, you know what I mean? Um, we don't know any of the evidence there. We know about some of it, the video of the car being leaked around the Linda Lane, just in the DNA on the sheath. Um, People have their thoughts about it, but in this case of Heuermann and like you said, Stefan Stearns, there just appears to be a lot of overwhelming evidence. Like Stearns, you can't deny it. The evidence was found right there on your phone, buddy. How are you going to dispute that? You know what I mean? And with Heuermann here, I don't know what all they gathered up out of his house. But they took a lot of items from that home, and you can bet there's DNA all over his tools that he had there. Do you know what I mean? I doubt he was. The house was apparently like a hoarder house, so I don't think they were very clean. So I don't envision him cleaning his tools really well. So I think there was a lot of evidence they probably were able to collect out of that home. Um, some of these people, there's just no denying how guilty they really look, outside of us getting to court to try to prove anything. Cases are very, very different.
They are, and juries are very different. I
Mm,
mean, there are a lot of people that feel like the jury in the Richard Allen Delphi murder trial did not come to the right conclusion. There are a lot of people that feel that way.
yeah. That case still, I try not to think about it too much because it bothers me, but the divide, that comes out of those cases like Koberger and don't make shit up or, put in crazy theories. We didn't make up crazy theories in Delphi. It was part of their actual investigation. Like there's just some things. Um, yeah, he gave us a playback, right? I don't know because the wife's family all were overseas. Like he didn't have access to her family unless he had ties to people that could go overseas and do things for him, which I don't know. It just appears from the things I've seen and read in documents that she may have just been complacent at best with what he was doing or what he was up to. Um, Unfortunately, there are a lot of women out there who will turn their heads because they need that roof over their head and they need that bank account, and they will absolutely turn their head to what that man is doing, or they're afraid of him. I mean, I'm sorry, but if my husband was a serial killer and was doing that stuff in the basement, and I kind of knew about it, kid, and get out of there. I don't know, far away as I could, back across the seas. I'd have left the country and went back home. Like I'm not living with that. But you never know when women are so different. You don't, what intimidates one may not intimidate another, and vice versa in relationships. Women can be just as controlling and abusive as men, although we see it more in men. But you know where I'm going. I mean, look at Sarah Boone. My God, I think him and her gave each other a good run for their money. So, all right, so I'm going to read a little bit more from this, guys. I want to be respectful of Valerie and what happened to her, but it's putting your mind, putting yourself in the mind of a serial killer can be a not so fun place to be sometimes. And if you're profiling, you have to do that. And I've done it in a lot of cases. And like even with BTK, I was like, oh, I got to get it like that. Was that way with the Rex Norman, and we do have the content warning up. Um, Moreover, the examination revealed injuries to the victim's left mid and lateral breast in the form of two contiguous ragged defects, which were likely the result of post-mortem manipulation of the victim's breast with a sharp object. I mean, that's even carrying it further. I mean, I feel like he was enjoying that part of it as well. Sick bastard. Mrs. Mack's remains were also, even if he's not the guy who did all that, whoever did all that to her is a sick individual. Mrs. Mack remains were also examined by forensic scientists with the SCCL. During the examination of Mac's body, several human hairs were recovered, one of which was found in the vicinity of the descendant's left wrist. A subsequent examination determination that it is a human head hair with Caucasian characteristics. However, it was based on the DNA testing capabilities at the SCCL unsuitable for further DNA testing at the time. So when they first discovered these hairs on Valerie, they were not suitable for the type of testing they have today. So they preserved them, thank goodness, as you should. On or about March 29th, 2024, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force brought a cutting of the female hair on Mac to an outside forensics lab, previously referred to in Exhibit A as Forensics Laboratory Number 2, which specializes in forensic mitochondrial analysis. On or about October 14th of 2024, Forensic Lab Number 2 issued a report concluding that the partial mitochondrial DNA profile developed from the female hair on Mac and the unknown mitochondrial DNA profiles of Asa Ellerup, which is Rex's wife, and Victoria Heuermann, his daughter, share a common base at all locations, specifically at a rate that would, as per EMPOP database, exclude 99.65% of North America population as the contributor of said hair recovered near the dismembered left wrist of the victim, while 99.65% contributor of the female hair on Mac, defendant Herman's wife and daughter, who share a I can't even say it now, mitochondrial DNA profile, cannot be excluded as the contributor of the hair recovered from the remains of Valerie Mack. On or about October 29th of 2024, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force sent a cutting of the female's hair on Mac to an outside independent lab, referred to in the exhibit as Laboratory Number 1, which applies DNA techniques and direct genome sequencing in difficult-to-solve forensic casework in the identification of human remains. On or about November 26th of 2024, Forensic Lab Number 1 issued a report indicating it had developed a nuclear DNA profile for the female hair on Mac. Forensic Lab Number 1 was then able to conduct a one-to-one autosomal nuclear DNA comparison between said profile, developed from the female hair on Mac, to Victoria Heuermann's S&P genotype file. Again, that was his daughter, developed from her buccal swab, which resulted in the conclusion that the DNA profile generated from the female hair on Mac is 1.31 by times 10 times more likely to have come from a person genetically identical to Victoria Heuermann's S&P genotype file than from any other unrelated individual. Oh, I'm sorry, I got a message real quick. I got to answer my son. He's grabbing something important for me from town.
Yeah. The men in your life are so needy. They're so needy.
Actually, I'm needy. Well, yeah, my son, I need something from town, and my son's in town. I'm like, I'm not driving all the way back. Hang on a second. I gotta answer his message real quick because he's off work and he'll get all frustrated with me in a second. I laugh at my boys. I swear, one is 18 and one's 32, 33, and they're just crazy. They were both here last night at the same time, and I'm just laughing at them.
Yeah, men of all ages are just crazy. We're all
Can't
crazy.
handle that sweet stuff. Uh-oh, he's calling. Sorry, Joe, if you want to read a little bit of this, let me mute out for a sec, okay?
Okay, you're all good. I gotcha. All right. So what I'm going to read in StreamYard is whatever's going on next. Based on the foregoing, it is significant that two forensic laboratories have now independently determined that the aforementioned hair, which was inside the sealed black garbage bags containing Ms. Mack's remains. That's so sick. Like, just like, I got to stop right there. The black bags containing her remains. And her remains were found like in different places. But anyway, specifically near the victim's dismembered left wrist, is substantially more likely to have derived from a person genetically identical to Victoria Heuermann's DNA profile. What? Is substantially more likely to have derived from a person genetically identical to Victoria Heuermann's DNA profile. What? Thereby linking evidence from yet another crime scene to the defendant through his immediate family. Wow. Notably, at the time of Ms. Mack's disappearance and murder, defendant Heuermann's daughter would have been between 3 and 4 years old.
Damn.
That is nuts.
Yeah, and she's like in her early 20s now, I believe.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. Her DNA was found at the scene of where they collected remains from a dismembered serial murders victim.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, when I do I'll do another show, maybe tomorrow we'll pick it back up, and I'll show you the press conference that was done where because there's an attorney for some of the victims, right? And he's going hard. And I can't blame the guy because he's a victim. They showed all kinds of stuff from his daughter, and I was like, whoa, what are you guys suggesting here, but it appeared to me that I had to really wonder, what was that child exposed to growing up? What did she see? I mean, I don't know. It's when you guys see it, you're going to go whoa, because it's really really odd stuff. So I think there was like a hair they believed was transferred from a belt to the victim, because he used a belt to tie, to wrap around their arms and things. So, but they had to be in his home at some point to get that transfer DNA, or he had his daughter in the vehicle taking them out there. You know what I mean? I
Oh
don't
my
know.
gosh, how sick would that be? How
I
freaking sick
know.
would that be?
And wait a minute. If they claim his wife was out of town each and every time with the children, the child couldn't have been there, so it had to have come from the home or the vehicle.
Right,
Because
right.
was it an avalanche he had? And he ended up giving it to his brother and then bought a new one, just like the one he had. But they went and recovered that truck from his brother, because witnesses had started describing this truck they seen in or close to the victims that night, or like the other workers would say, well, I saw her talking to a guy in this type of vehicle. So they had a description of the vehicle. When it came out, he was arrested and everything. The original vehicle he was transporting his victims in, he had given to his brother. I believe he lived in North Carolina, South Carolina. Well, they went and recovered that vehicle. Plus, Rex had went out and bought a brand new one, just like the one he had, like a newer model. You know what I mean? So the but to be on their, did they pick up the transfer when they were in the vehicle still alive, or did they pick up transfer once dismembered? And you know what I mean? I don't know. It's crazy though, isn't it? That you could, like, do we know anybody?
Oh,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I looked
the,
down, I saw the screen go blank, and I looked down, had no signal, then it just came back like strong as ever. Like, geez, make up your mind.
right. You're back now. Back as strong as ever.
Back and back, back. Okay. That's crazy that, I don't know. They have a son as well. I believe the son is his stepson. Is his wife's older. He's older than the daughter, and I believe he has some mental disabilities, but not to the extent where he can't function and do things. You know what I mean? 'Cause- but he but he is not Rex's biological child, just Victoria, the daughter, is. But he did live in the home with them. Um, the chart on the following page summarizes the results from Forensic Lab 1 and Forensic Lab 2, which each individually have been able to determine that the hairs recovered of now 6 of the 7 charged victims are forensically tied to defendant Heuermann. Jesus. Um, Members of his immediate family or individuals with whom Heuermann resided, which is his immediate family, lending further support to the conclusion that defendant Heuermann murdered and transported the remains of each victim. This is a list with the victims that he was previously charged with and what they found on them as far as DNA goes. Um, Joe, if you want to start reading the first one there, I'm going to go grab a fresh cup of coffee and I'll be right back. And we can look at
All right.
what they actually, because a lot of these women are all good. It's all going to be like a DNA case, right? Because there was like eyewitnesses only described the vehicle that he was in, and they do have all the phones that he had and all of the devices from his home that had the blueprint for murder and things of that nature on it. But then all this DNA as well, and like I said, it's all going to be challenged, the DNA part. So I'll be right back, guys.
All right. So Sandra Costilla, male hair was found, tape lift of striped shirt above victim's head. Mitochondrial DNA results 99.96% of North American population can be excluded. Okay, hold on. So I'm going to have to Google real quick how many people live in the U.S. Population of USA. 335,334.9. So let's go that times 99.96. 334.9 million times 99.96 is 1 in 33 million times 1000. Yeah, that's pretty tight DNA case, but it's not. So if I were the defense prosecutor right here, I'd be like, well, that's not absolute beyond a reasonable doubt, especially in New York. 35 million, 300 million. No, there's 300 million people in New York right now. So my guy's not it. You found the wrong guy. Like he's cream of some young guy. Sandra Costilla, female hair on Costilla, victim's right arm, 99.98%. Okay, so that's not 33 million, that's like 30 million. Valerie Mack. So this is the new one that we're just finding out today. Female hair inside garbage bags containing victim. That's so rough. Inside garbage bags containing victim. We don't need to read beyond that, but we will. Near victim's left wrist, 99.65% of the North American population can be excluded, but not Asa Elaroup or Victoria Heuermann. 1.31 times 10 to the 356 power. Holy shit. 1.31 times 10 to the 356 power, more likely to come from an individual with the identical genetic profile as Victoria Heuermann. Holy crap.
Yeah, isn't it? It's
So,
crazy.
so the female hair on Mac came from Victoria Heuermann. Like, I
Yes.
mean, way beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah. And
Holy
and you know how we all needed to have that DNA in Delphi to tie Alan to the scene, which we did not get, right? And I think that's what led a lot of us were like, come on, you're making it really hard for us to get there to say this guy did anything. So that's like you said, they had the bullet, and that was it. And they couldn't even collect DNA or anything off that bullet, even using, I don't even know if they used the Bardol method, but whatever. But then you got the Koberger case where there's single source male DNA on that sheath, and then they tell you how that probably belongs to him. Nobody wants to believe it, but we see this. Um, it you can't pick and choose which cases you decide where DNA is admissible, and we believe it here and not over here. It's crazy to me, but yeah, notice his son. Well, the son's not biologically his, but he belongs to the mother. But none of his hairs, if there were hair collected from him, it's never mentioned. You know what I mean? It's just the wife and the daughter's hairs that are mentioned.
crazy.
Hmm.
Absolutely nuts.
And I guess he never, he's not a criminology major or anything, no kind of PhD. So maybe back when he was started doing these killings, DNA really wasn't a thing. But as it progressed over time, he was absolutely keeping an eye on that. Um, with the information they found on his devices were the articles he was pulling up and reading, and the different things of the cases he was pulling up and reading about. Um, did he start trying to get better, along the way about making sure he didn't have DNA left behind? But I think it's kind of hard when you live in a home that's not well kept, and you got a couple of women in there who are losing strands of hair constantly, excuse me. It's bound to get somewhere. Which one were you just up to Valerie's, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And so they have um I was just reading the top there. Okay. Jessica Taylor, male hair underneath her, on surgical drape underneath victim. 99.96% North American population can be excluded, but not Rex Heuermann. So that was one of his hairs found, like the up there with Sandra Castillo's. And see, this one was Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and the female hair was on her, and it was the buckle of belt restraining on her lower body. Um, there's all kinds of DNA that they're going to get this guy with, that can prove that I feel like can prove absolutely beyond a reasonable doubt that they were in his home at some point or in that vehicle. And I think,
Okay. So you
go
need
ahead.
to explain to me and to the other people out here what is ASA LRUP, because there
Asa,
can.
okay,
A,
Asa Ellerup it's actually Asa Ellerup, and that is Rex Heuermann's wife.
okay, gotcha.
Yes, that's her name. Is Asa is her first name, and Ellerup's her last name. I don't guess she took his married name because they were legally married. So I do know she was from, I forget where she was actually from, but it was another country. I have to go back and review. It's been a minute. But yes, her name is Asa Ellerup. And do you know that after he started going through court proceedings, she took a lot of heat because TV cameras began to follow her around. And at first, she didn't come to the first couple of hearings. And then all of a sudden, she began to come. But she showed up with a television crew, a documentary crew was following her, and apparently she's made some money to do a documentary. And I forgot who did they say it was with. People were really annoyed by that on Twitter. Um, that was already a process happening. You know what I mean? But if you watch these cases unfold on these different shows we watch and things, and you wonder, they get a lot of information, but now they're wanting to follow these people through their trials, which I get. We do it here, but like being paid, I mean, now you're making bank off what your husband did. You know what I mean? People are like, oh, leave her alone. She needs the money. All these things. They destroyed their home and they were searching it, which they kind of did. They kind of had to. The house was full of junk. So It was this whole big thing on Twitter for quite a while. People had saw it both ways. But yeah, she was being followed around. I'm not sure if she was in that hearing this morning or not. She might be laying low now that once all that came out, you know what I mean? And she started catching flack for that. Just
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, very interesting. But I wonder, along the way through this process, if some of the other victims they haven't been able to identify yet, are they getting were they able to recover DNA from them that they're currently testing and can tie to him as well in the future moving forward? Because there's still quite a few victims that are, like I said in the beginning, that are unidentified at this point, and all found right there in Gilgo Beach area. So it's hard to believe that they're not his victims, considering where they're found, how they're found, and all that, and the proximate times and everything. Episode of Hoarders. Um, did you want to finish looking this over, Joe, with the different DNA stuff?
Oh my goodness, it's a deep dive.
It really, really is. I've been on panels before over another channel discussing Heuermann back when it all was happening, but I've not done any lives on Rex Heuermann myself. But it is a case I have been following. I'm with you, True Grit Crime. It's kind of, well, it's fascinating, and I'm into true crime, so it is what it is. But to know that these serial killers are among us, people, they're out there. And when Joe referred to the truck driver earlier, I covered made a video a few months ago where it came out they were tracking about 30 ish believed to be serial killers who are long haul truckers. And that what makes it so difficult to catch them is they are able to pick up their victim in one state, transport to another state, commit the crime, transport on to another state to get rid of their victims, and makes them very hard to trace and track. These girls get picked up at these big truck stops and things like that. We've got one not far from here. Well, probably about a half hour from here, but if I ride down there, you can probably any given time see somebody out there. And not saying that long haul truckers are all serial killers. I'm just saying there are just so many out there that we are unaware of. Can't
It's
never be too careful.
yeah, no, it's kind of scary though, like just for the everyday average person. So just between Phoenix, Arizona and Tucson, Arizona is just a 90-minute drive. And half of that is on state roads, but half of that is on I-10, and it's a huge flat area with almost no truck stops, no stops at all in between. So like
I'm a
if
part of that
something
I-10 corridor. I know it well.
yeah, if something
Mhm.
goes wrong, if something goes wrong in that stretch, you're
Yep.
screwed. Like you if and there's poor cell signal for, I don't know, 25% of it. So if your cell signal goes out, your car breaks down. I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Right. Exactly. There are very long stretches out there that you just, and if you, like if I was to travel alone, which I have done, I won't do it at night, because what if something did happen? What if I did get a flat tire or a deer run out or anything could happen? I don't want to be caught out there in the middle of nowhere with no cell service and nothing. And you want a good Samaritan to come along and help you, but what are the chances they're not a good Samaritan? They're just pretending. You know what I mean? It's a very scary thought. Um, but they're out there lurking, just waiting for their opportunity. And that's why a lot of us had a hard time even in Delphi. Like, oh, Rick Allen had it was a crime of opportunity. Explain that better, because that was a very local place to be. It wasn't like a long stretch of deserted highway where he could just troll for victims, right? It was like right there in town where everybody goes, which made that harder for me to get behind. Like I couldn't get behind that at all. But if it had occurred in another place, under other circumstances, maybe I could have gotten there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. even if you're delivering hogs to Indiana Packers, which is a couple miles down the road from where it happened,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're Elvis Fields and you ride on that truck, you might have DNA show up on the girls' bodies,
You might.
and then you might have the Indiana State Police say, "We don't need to investigate that any further." That might happen.
We'll have to look into that, True Grit. We're gonna have to get you up here with us one day. You were up. We had you on panel once. Was it over on your channel, Joe? I can't remember if it was here or yours. And we enjoyed having you up. So we got to get you up again soon. Maybe we can work on something like that together and cover it. It'd be
That'd be
interesting.
good.
Yeah,
Yep,
wouldn't
that'd
it?
be good.
I enjoyed having that conversation with her. She's awesome. Um, wow, there's a lot to unpack with this Gilgo Beach case, guys. If you haven't really followed it a lot, but excuse me. This goes on about the charging doc. This thing is can be. I don't even know how many pages this thing really actually is. I didn't read all of it this morning, but we'll go over a little bit more of it. I do have my kiddo coming home here in a few minutes. My grandson, they're gonna be hungry. I had a package delivered a few minutes ago. I don't even know what that is. I thought they were all here already. Like, I can't getting into Christmas spirit. I don't do it until like last minute. Like it's just Christmas. The Christmas tree's pretty and all those things. It's just not even cold here or nothing. You know what I mean? It's just like it's weird. I'm weird about Christmas. I have been for about 20 years now. It's just my thing. Digital evidence as it relates to the disappearance of the murder victim of Valerie Mack. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this hearing plays out. If they can let this evidence into court or not, you know what I mean? I hope it's. I wish we could watch that type of hearing to see the different experts come up and give their side and their take and determine, yeah, because apparently this is used in other cases, but it hasn't been used in a New York courtroom yet. So maybe that's why they were granted their hearing, right? As detailed in Exhibit A, following his arrest, numerous search warrants were executed at Rex Heuermann's residence, which culminated in, inter alia, the seizure of over 350 electronic devices. Damn, dude.
Holy shit. If I'm okay, I'm never going to be a serial killer, but if I ever am, I am not holding on to 350 electronic devices that incriminate me. Come on, man.
Right? I mean, we hear how these serial killers like to keep their trophies and things of that nature. It's not an uncommon thing, but he apparently liked to keep everything. I mean, 350 electronic devices. And like I said, we know he had a slew of burner phones that he was using to communicate or to call up these services and to request a girl. The one victim that went out on a date with him, I think that's how he got her, was through a service. So I have to go back and review that again. But communicating with his victims through these phones, calling and torturing their families once, they're unalived. Hey, Forrest, welcome in. Well, yeah, go back to the beginning and catch us on a replay. We're going to be wrapping it up here in just a little bit. I try not to keep them too terribly long, so in case someone does want to go back on replay to review, you guys can. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put together a live for tomorrow to go back over some more stuff in this case. I'll do some research again later. 350 electronic devices. In the months subsequent to Heuermann's arrest, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has attempted to extract and analyze data from each of these devices. As previously detailed, an analysis of these devices has revealed Heuermann's significant collection of violent, bondage, and torture pornography, currently dating back to 1994. Mm. Moreover, in the months leading up to, and you know what the scary part about that is? He's not the only one out there consuming that type of stuff. there's a huge market for stuff like that, the violence, the bondage, and the torture stuff. There are some sick individuals out there, and you never know what they're going to do, I guess. Like they want to act on it, or, ugh. Y'all be careful and stay vigilant when you go out and about. Moreover, in the months leading up to Mrs. Mack's disappearance, murder, the task force uncovered pornographic images assessed by Heuermann, which included breast mutilation and the tying up of women with rope, which largely coincide with the injuries inflicted on Mrs. Mack's breast. How the rope ligatures were utilized and how the rope ligatures were utilized on Valerie Mack. More specifically, during the month of September of 2000, investigators observed a large uptick in downloads of pornographic images depicting bondage, discipline, sadism, and masochism. I can't even say that word. Sorry, guys. These pornographic downloads were discovered on a compact disc located in Heuermann's home office. On a compact disc. People still have CDs. Mm. Oh, did he like burn them off his computer onto a CD? Remember how back in the day we would burn CDs, like steal the music off of Napster or whatever it was called and burn CDs? Is that what he was doing? Ew. Specifically relevant to the mask investigation is on May 23rd of 2020 and July 30th of 2020. Rex Heuermann's home IP address was used to access gilgonews.com, a website previously maintained by the SCPD to disseminate information regarding the Gilgo Beach investigation. Notably, on May 23rd of 2020 at approximately 11:30 p.m., at the time Rex Heuermann's home IP address visited gilgonews.com, the webpage highlighted the upcoming identification of Manorville Jane Doe, who would 5 days later be identified as Valerie Mack. On July 30th, 2020, at approximately 10:50 p.m., Heuermann's home IP address once again visited the Mack specific portions of gilgonews.com, website for information pertaining to the investigation. And you guys, if you want to get this document so you can read through it yourself or at your own leisure or whatever, like I said, the Twitter account Catch Lisk, that is where I got this from this morning. He did drop the links. He does ask you to be respectful because, like I said, he is all about the victims, right? Just be respectful as you can talking about this stuff, as I know most of you are. But that's where I got the document this morning. It's just really a large document to post to the community tab, but you can go straight to that account and get it. And I'll drop the link. I can't do it right here, but I'll do it on my community tab. So if you guys want to, because I always like to make sure you guys can get the documents to read at your own leisure when you want. There's so much in a lot of them. But on July 30th at approximately 10:50, the home address once again visited the MAC-specific portions of the gilgonews.com website for information pertaining to the investigation. As previously noted, in March of 2024, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force extracted a Microsoft Word document entitled HK 2002 to 04. Jesus, now my sister trying to call. From Heuermann's laptop computer. So that would be HK 2002-04. Would that be like 2002 through 2004? Laptop computer, as set forth in further detail in Exhibit A. Specifically, the June 6, 2024 bail application, the task force members believe the Microsoft Word document to be a planning document utilized by Heuermann to methodically blueprint and plan out his kills, referred to as HK planning document, attached here as Exhibit B. The Gilgo Homicide Task Force subsequently hired a digital forensic expert who was able to determine that while this, I got my wrong glasses on, y'all can tell, while this iteration of the HK planning document appeared to have been created and modified between 2001 and 2002, the original document appears to have been created in the year 2000, which notably coincides with the year Valerie Mack was murdered. In addition to the document's creation in the same year that Valerie Mack was murdered, the HK planning document substantively relates to the Mack investigation in other respects. First, the HK planning document begins with a four-category section with underlined headings of problems, supplies, DS, and TRG. See embedded excerpt below, emphasis added. So if you take a look, he listed out the problems. Why is that? Oh, here it is. Can you guys see that okay? His problems, DNA. Ooh, my favorite, tire marks. That is like one of my favorite evidence. I don't know why. I'm just obsessed with tire marks. And I want to know if those in front of King Road match that damn Elantra. Anyway, blood stains, fingerprints, MO, plastic bag, cat litter, witness, trace, source of supplies, foot shoe prints, photos with a question mark, miss leaders with a question mark, police stop. Did he get stopped by the police, I wonder? Truck stuck. I bet he got his truck stuck before taking his victims out there to dump them out. Fingerprints in gloves, plastic bags matched to box. You guys know how they can easily take a garbage bag nowadays and match it to the lot number and tell you where it was bought, when it was made. Hair and fiber. Those are the problems he listed he needed to overcome to continue what he was doing, I guess. Supplies, booties, lye, and acid, police scanner. Oh, you got to have that. Rope, cord, saw, cutting tools, hairnets, photo film, burn can, foam drain cleaner. Now, I had heard today that something about a plumber coming out. I got to research that a little more. I don't want to get wrong information out there about it. But a plumber coming out around the time one of the victims they believe had been in the home. And that's when this morning the DA was like, we don't need to prove the victims were ever at his home. We need to prove that he did this to them. And it was something about some drain cleaner, foam cleaner that had been used in the home, according to this plumber that came out. And I guess it created a problem. I'll have to check into that a little more. Body wash wipes, tarps and drop cloths, medical gloves, bags, tape, large elect clips, ratcheted cargo strap. Then he has these are in red. DS Mill Road. See, that's where Valerie was found. Dumpster site next to next time recon dumpster locations. Did he put stuff in dumpsters? Like, And then TRG, Megan, that is one of his victims, Megan Waterman. Small is good. TUNK black. Apparently he liked petite victims because y'all, if you've seen Rex Heuermann, you know he's a giant of a man, right? He's huge. Would be very intimidating for a very small petite woman. I'm a very small petite woman, and even if I was a sex worker, I would not climb in the truck with that Jolly Green Giant dude. There's no way. Like, I can't overpower him if something went south real quick. Like, just couldn't do it.
Oh my gosh. You know,
What?
you just made like an indelible internet moment when you said, if I were a sex worker.
Hey, like, girls got to do what you got to do. I mean, I'm just saying, times are hard, man. Christmas costs money. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm just making bad jokes, and I probably should not be doing that right now.
We should all be making bad jokes. That makes
Yeah.
for better Christmas.
Well, it kind of, to deal with some of this heavy, heavy stuff that we deal with,
Yes. Yep.
it's really, really, even like when we were covering um, Maddie Soto, and I was reading through those documents that what Stearns was doing to that poor child. It was like, you know, I had to take a couple of days off from that because it got so heavy, and I've already read a lot of what I knew. I knew how Rex had done these victims, but this is the first time I've read it in a while. You know what I mean? Revisited the case in a while. Yeah, right, Kelt. Thank you for understanding. Kelt's got my back, so does Joe. So I think the rest of you will be okay. I appreciate you guys. I really, really do. Uh-oh. My son's home and he's yelling at his dog. Hold on.
I heard that. I heard that in the background, and I'm like, oh shit, somebody's in trouble. Oh my goodness. This case is so heavy. Based on the Gilgo Homicide Task Force training and experience, it is believed the DS heading appears to be the acronym for dump site. So they know, and we know, that he has dump sites for his victim, which is corroborated by inter alia, the discovery of Valerie Mack at two separate DS dump sites. One of those locations being the
Whoops.
vicinity of Mill Road, which is listed as Dump Site 1 Mill Road in the above Word document. That's nuts. He labeled his dump sites.
Isn't that crazy?
He labeled his dump sites.
And that's when they found that documents, how I guess they went out and did some more searches, and that's when they found the or the rest of this last victim. That's crazy.
So it's like the genius thinks he's a genius and he's smarter than everybody. But
Mm-hmm.
dude, you're not smarter than everybody if you label your dump sites DS. DS1, DS2, DS3. No, you're not that smart. You're just a sick, disgusting. All
Yeah.
right.
And he thought he would never
He
get caught,
yeah,
apparently.
yeah. He hasn't been convicted, so I can't go all in on him, but I'm pretty tempted to, you know. I'm
I'm
pretty
sorry if I
tempted.
find documents in your house and you got DS1 and DS2 and there are actually spots I have found victims. I'm pretty convinced you're my guy.
Yeah.
It's hard to, um, like I said, this case in Stearns is not like Delphi and Idaho, right? There's just no comparison at all.
It's not even like Sarah Boone. Like
I
Sarah
know.
Boone,
Mm-mm.
she had a video where she taped herself saying derogatory things towards her spouse, and he ended up dead the next morning. So there was like maybe some question that the jury might have had if she had some excuse for that, but she didn't, and she was found guilty, and we're not anywhere near that. We're not anywhere near that.
Yeah. And Kelt, that's what gave that Jane Doe the name Peaches, was her peach tattoo. She had a tattoo of a peach on her, and she was known as Peaches.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Oh, well, not. That's what they, you know, people who followed the case ended up calling her as Peaches because that was the only identifying marker on her. I don't even know. I don't think she's been identified yet, has she? Okay. So yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, Joe? I mean, hmm. And he's and the sad, like I said, that he's probably not the only guy out there that does this kind of stuff. Some may get a little more discreet with what they keep and what they write down and what they save. I don't know. They're not all playing with a full deck. Apparently, you can't go and do what this guy was doing and be of your right mind. I'm not saying let him off because he's crazy. That's not what I mean. Psychopath type people, they don't care. And like Joe said, they think they're smarter than everybody else. They're not going to get caught. So I can absolutely keep these trinkets and these devices and all the things with all my trophies there. He probably got a thrill out of going back and reading this stuff and honing and perfecting his craft. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's probably a good thing that he doesn't have access to the internet from prison,
Mm-hmm.
because he would probably be getting off on it right now. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, definitely. They've been known to do that, right? Um, to go back and revisit things and to read it and put their hands on their trophies, and it just brings what they did right back to them, and they relive it. That's why they keep these trophies, so they can go back and relive the crime, which they get pleasure out of. It's really a sick phenomena. It really, really is. Mm. Well, yeah. Guys, I think I'm gonna wrap it up for the day. I'm gonna go finish dinner. The kiddos are in now, and I will. If you guys want, we'll go back tomorrow and read some more of this. I want to pull up some other stuff to look at, just for the Rex Horman stuff, like what that the press conference I was telling you about. Um, because this stuff does get heavy, and if some of you may want to hear it, some may not. Of course it's bothersome to read it, but you also have to read it if you want to know what you're dealing with, and so that's I speak very matter of factly sometimes. I'm talking about these cases, and I have to remember, but we are in true crime, and it is what we do, and I chose this genre, so it is what it is. But like I said, if you want to follow get these documents to read, go to Twitter if you have Twitter accounts, and get at Catch Lisk is the account, and he does a really good job. You'll probably find some good information on there actually pertaining to the case, because he has a lot of information on his Twitter feed about the case. He really does do these victims a lot of justice in trying to get their names out there, their faces. He was really upset this morning because in my thumbnail I used Valerie's picture. Now, other people, and well, mainstream media were using her mugshots, and he's like, why do they have to do that? She was, of all the photos you could pull up to use, why do you have to use her mugshot? That's kind of like making her less of a victim almost, and I get that. So it's real respectful of the victims over there on that account. So you guys go give it a follow. And like I said, I'll set something up for tomorrow. I'm not sure what time yet it'll be, maybe late morning, early afternoon. But I appreciate all you guys coming in and catching up on this with us. And you can catch this morning's press conference. Somebody on YouTube will have it. There was, I think Bob Mata covered it today on his live. So the press conference is out there, but you kind of got the same information we just talked about. So if you want to go view that, you can. But again, thank you all for coming in. I appreciate it. Joe, thanks for coming up and hanging out with us. Hey, have I been on mute all this time?
Thanks, Salty. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you guys coming in. I was on mute and didn't even realize it there for a second. Something was going on. Like I looked down, like, wait a minute, am I on mute? But I appreciate you guys coming in. I'll set something up for tomorrow. It won't be terribly early. It'll be kind of like midday again, early afternoon, and we'll go over some things. And I'm also working on a couple of other things I wanted to go over in another case we've been following. So I will set some things up for tomorrow and over the weekend as well. You guys have a great night. Thanks for coming in. Like I said, if you want to get this document and read the rest of it yourselves, go follow that case or the account on Twitter, the Catch List account, and there's a lot of good information on that Twitter feed actually about the case. So go check it out for sure. And
Check it out.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.